Okay, we are now on chapter 7 of Joseph Campbell's Primitive Mythology. This chapter is entitled The Animal Master, and the first section is called The Legend of the Buffalo Dance. The lives of the Blackfoot Indians of Montana were bound up entirely with the comings and goings of the great buffalo herds, and one of their best devices for slaughtering a large number was to lure the animals over a cliff and butcher them when they fell on the rocks below. This same device was used on the buffalo plains of Europe in the period of the Great Caves, circa 30,000 to 10,000 BC. And no one who has seen the paintings in those caves of the masked shamans luring bison with a lively dancing step will fail to marvel at the reaches of time and space implied in George Bird Grinnell's descriptions of the hunts and drives in which he participated in the Wild West of the early 70s. That's the 1870s. While the scholarship of that same Europe was trying to reconstruct the long-lost Aryan past of only 1500 BC, and Wagner was building his cycle of the ring. I guess that'd be Wagner. In the evening of the day preceding a drive of buffalo into the Piskun, buffalo trap, a medicine man, usually one who was the possessor of a buffalo rock, Iniskim, unrolled his pipe and prayed to the sun for success. Next morning the man who was to call the buffalo arose very early and told his wives that they must not leave the lodge, nor even look out until he returned, that they should keep burning sweet grass and should pray to the sun for his success and safety. Without eating or drinking, he then went up on the prairie, and the people followed him and concealed themselves behind the rocks and bushes, which formed the V or chute. The medicine man put on a headdress made of the head of a buffalo and a robe, and then started out to approach the animals. When he came near to the herd, he moved about until he attracted the attention of some of the buffalo. And when they began to look at him, he walked slowly away toward the entrance of the chute. Usually the buffalo followed, and as they did so, he gradually increased his pace. The buffalo followed more rapidly, and the man continually went a little faster. Finally, when the buffalo were fairly within the chute, the people began to rise up from behind the rock piles which the herd had passed, and to shout and wave their robes. This frightened the hindermost buffalo, which pushed forward on the others, and before long the whole herd was running at headlong speed toward the precipice, the rock piles directing them to the point over the enclosure below. When they reached it, most of the animals were pushed over, and usually even the last of the band plunged blindly down into the Piskun. Many were killed outright by the fall. Others had broken legs or broken backs, while some perhaps were uninjured. A barricade, however, prevented them from escaping, and all were soon killed by the arrows of the Indians. It is said that there was another way to get the buffalo into this chute. A man who was very skillful in arousing the buffalo's curiosity might go out without disguise, and by wheeling round and round in front of the herd, appearing and disappearing, would induce them to move toward him, when it was easy to entice them into the chute. Once upon a time, so a certain Blackfoot story goes, the hunters for some reason could not induce the animals to the fall, and the people were starving. When driven toward the cliff, the beasts would run nearly to the edge, but then swerving to the right or left, go down the sloping hills and cross the valley in safety. So the people were hungry, and their case was becoming dangerous. And so it was that one early morning, when a young woman went to get water and saw a herd of buffalo feeding on the prairie, right at the edge of the cliff above the fall, she cried out, "Oh, if you only will jump into the corral, I shall marry one of you." This was said in fun, of course, not seriously. Hence her wonder was great when she saw the animals begin to come jumping, tumbling, falling over the cliff. And then she was terrified because a big bull with a single bound cleared the walls of the corral and approached her. "Come," he said, and he took her by the arm. Oh no, she cried, pulling back. But you said that if the buffalo would jump, you would marry one. See, the corral is filled. And without further ado, he led her up over the cliff and out onto the prairie. When the people had finished killing the buffalo and cutting up the meat, they missed the young woman. Then her relatives were very sad, and her father took his bow and quiver. I shall go find her, he said, and he went up the cliff and over, out across the prairie. When he had traveled a considerable distance, he came to a buffalo wallow, a place where the buffalo come for water and to lie and roll. And there, a little way off, he saw a herd. Being tired and considering what he should do, he sat down by the wallow, and while he was thinking, a beautiful black and white bird with a long, graceful tail, a magpie, came and lighted on the ground close by. "Ha!" said the man, "you are a handsome bird. Help me. As you fly about, look everywhere for my daughter, and if you see her, say to her, 'Your father is waiting by the wallow.'" The magpie flew directly to the herd, and seeing a young woman among the buffalo, he lit on the ground not far from her and began picking around, turning his head this way and that, and when close to her said, "Your father is waiting by the wallow." "Shh, shh," whispered the girl, frightened, and she glanced around, for her bull husband was sleeping close by. "Don't speak so loudly. Go back and tell him to wait." Presently the bull woke and said to his wife, "Go get me some water." The woman was glad, and taking a horn from his head, went to the wallow. "Father," she said, "why did you come? You will surely be killed." "I came to take my daughter home," the man replied. "Come, let us hurry, let us go." "No, no, not now," she said. "They would pursue and kill us. Let us wait until he sleeps again, then I shall try to slip away." So she returned to the bull, having filled his horn with water. He drank a swallow. "Ha!" said he, "there is a person close by here." "No, no, no one," said the woman, but her heart rose up. The bull drank a little more, then he got up and bellowed. What a fearful sound! Up stood the bulls, raised their short tails and shook them, tossed their great heads and bellowed back. Then they pawed the dirt, rushed about in all directions, and coming to the wallow, found the poor man who had come to seek his daughter. They trampled him with their hoofs, hooked him with their horns, and trampled him again, so that soon not even a small piece of his body could be seen. Then his daughter wailed, "Oh, my father, my father!" "Aha!" said the bull, "you are mourning for your father, and so perhaps you can now see how it is with us. We have seen our mothers, fathers, many of our relatives, hurled over the rock walls and slaughtered by your people. But I shall pity you. I shall give you just one chance. If you can bring your father to life again, you and he may go back to your people." The woman turned to the magpie. "Pity me, help me now," she said. "Go and search in the trampled mud. Try to find some little piece of my father's body and bring it back to me." The magpie quickly flew to the wallow, looked in every hole, and tore up the mud with his sharp beak, and then at last found something white. He picked the mud from around it, and pulling hard brought out a joint of the backbone. And with this he returned to the young woman. She placed the particle of bone on the ground, and covering it with her robe, sang a certain song. Removing the robe, she saw her father's body lying there, as though dead. Covering it with her robe again, she resumed her song, and when she next took the robe away from her took away, and when she next took the robe away, her father was breathing. Then he stood up. The buffalo were amazed. The magpie was delighted, and flying round and round, set up a clatter. "We have seen strange things today," the bull husband said to the others of his herd. "The man we trampled to death into small pieces is again alive. The people's holy power is strong." He turned to the young woman. "Now," he said, "before you and your father go, we shall teach you our dance and song. You must not forget them. For these would be the magical means by which the buffalo killed by the people for their food should be restored to life, just as the man killed by the buffalo has been restored." All the buffalo danced, and as befitted the dance of such great beasts, the song was slow and solemn, the step ponderous and deliberate. And when the dance was over, The bull said, "Now go to your home, and do not forget what you have seen. Teach this dance and song to your people. The sacred object of the rite is to be a bull's head and buffalo robe. All those who dance the bulls are to wear a bull's head and buffalo robe when they perform." The father and daughter returned to their camp. The people were glad when they beheld them and called a council of the chiefs. The man then told them what had happened, and the chiefs selected a number of young men who were taught the dance and song of the bulls. And that was the day the Blackfoot Association of Men's Societies, called Ikun Akasi, all comrades, first was organized. Its function was to regulate the ceremonial life and to punish offenses against the community. And it remained in force until the iron horse cut across the prairie, the buffalo disappeared, and the old hunters turned to farming and to various laboring jobs. So we'll stop there today. Next time we'll pick up with section 2 in the chapter of the Animal Master. Thanks for joining, and I hope you're enjoying the book.